Welcome back to Tackle the Numbers, the channel that has a surprisingly high opinion of the New England Free Jacks. My name is Alistair Poole. As always, this video is also available as a podcast. If you'd rather listen than watch, check the link in the video description. Let's start with the absolute blowout that was Houston at Rooney. The model guessed the SaberCats score correctly, 19 points. However, it predicted 29 points for Rooney, when they actually scored 54. That's the fifth highest score ever in the MLR. And it wasn't a close contest, despite Houston scoring first. Rooney had put up 28 points by the first water break and 42 by the half, pretty much coasting from there. Houston took a big hit with this match. Their attacks somehow managed to improve, but it's still a ridiculously bad minus 10.4 points. Their defense, meanwhile, plummeted to 39.2 points. That's not the worst they've done all season, but at least they could score points back then. Altogether, they are at a season low minus 9.1 point combined margin. For them, the offseason can't come quickly enough. Rooney, meanwhile, barely moved. Their attack at 3.2 points and their defense at 22.8 points are both ever so slightly worse than last week. You might have expected an improvement, at least on attack, given that they scored 54 points. However, their big win over Old Glory dropped from the average, and combined with all their subsequent wins looking slightly worse, it ends up being a wash. That leaves their combined margin a little worse for wear at 2.8 points. Next, we saw an upset defeat of the San Diego Legion as they visited Old Glory DC. Once again, the model got one of the scores exactly right, with San Diego scoring exactly the 29 points that the model predicted. However, the model once again undersold the home team. Not quite as badly in this case, though. Old Glory was expected to score 26, but instead scored 38 for a 9-point victory. It was a close one, with Old Glory always in the lead, but rarely by much. However, they pulled away towards the end to break their 5-match losing streak. This knocked the Legion down a peg again. They dropped on attack to 2.2 points, which is still good, but their defense is now 31.2 points, which is trending into bad territory. Overall, that leaves their combined margin at minus 2.2 points, their lowest mark since they made a dramatic mid-season comeback. Not a great way to end the year for the Legion. This was their last match of the season, so this is where they'll have to pick up next year. For Old Glory, this was a definite improvement. They saw improvement on attack to get to 3.2 points, while on defense they saw an uptick to 31.5 points. Their combined margin is minus 2.1 points, near enough the same as San Diego's. In fact, they're pretty similar to San Diego in every respect now, a fact that reflects a downturn for the Legion and an upswing for DC. We saw Austin head to LA, hoping for an upset to keep their playoff shot alive. However, they fell short. Once again, the model is accurate for the visitors, predicting 19 points for Austin when they actually got 17. However, it once again underestimated the home team, as LA put up 31 instead of the predicted 23. Austin will really be kicking themselves for this one, as they had frequent leads and were ahead at halftime. But the LA defense held them scoreless in the second half to come away with it. Weirdly, though, Austin's ratings improved with this match. Their attack went up to 4.4 points, and their defense improved to a nice 22 points. Overall, that led to a respectable bump in their combined margin to 3.4 points. All of that is a little surprising, but it's explained by the fact that a 45-24 blowout loss to Utah is no longer in the averages. For LA, not much changed. Their defense stayed perfectly level at 15.1 points, a very good rating, while their attack went up to 3.4 points. That leads to a modest boost in their combined margin to 7.1 points. After that was Rugby ATL visiting Utah. It was predicted to be a low-scoring defensive match, with Utah expected to win by 3, 22-19. Instead, it was a shootout, with Rugby ATL running away with a 10-point 41-31 win. It wasn't particularly close, though, as Atlanta had the lead the whole time, often by 2 or more scores. The win, as fun as it may have been to watch, did no favors to the Rattlers' ratings. Giving up 31 points was a big hit to their defense, which went from great to merely good at 20.3 points. A small improvement on attack to exactly average didn't do much to offset that either. Overall, that left their combined margin distinctly down at 3.5 points. Not the trend you want to see right before the playoffs. Utah, though, took an even bigger hit. Their attack dropped to 4.2 points, but the real loss was on defense, which went from fairly good to below average at 28.1 points. That puts them at exactly average, a 0-point combined margin. Hopefully for Utah, this was just the inevitable result of missing starters to the Eagles, who will be returning this week. Next up, we saw Toronto host New England. This was expected to go New England's way with a predicted score of 26-18, and that's pretty much how it went. The Free Jacks won 28-17. Toronto got the first blood, but New England grabbed a pair of tries to the end of the first half, and then a couple more in the second for 28 unanswered points. At that point, things were pretty much over. For New England, this match saw a significant improvement to their attack. It's still below average, but much better than it was at minus 1.2 points. However, that was offset by a slight drop in their defense, which is now 17.4 points. That's still an excellent rating. Overall, that leaves them level at a 4.9 point combined margin. Despite losing, this was an improvement for Toronto. They stayed roughly level on attack at minus 0.8 points, but they also managed to pull their defense under 30, getting it to 29.8 points. That raises their combined margin to minus 2 points. That's where they're going to stay because this was their last match of the season. The long road trip is finally over. The last match of the season was a crazy upset. NOLA visited Seattle and were predicted to win by 8, 26-18. Instead, the Seawolves put in their best performance of the season, defeating the Gold by 24 points, 30-6. Seattle got 3 tries, while NOLA didn't even manage 1. Everything about this hurt for NOLA. Aside from the playoff implications, which I'll address shortly, they took a hammering in the ratings. Their defense, which had been one of the best, is now just good at 20.3 points, while their attack, already unimpressive, sank to minus 6.6 points, which is bad. Overall, that makes their combined margin 2.2 points, which is better than average, but not playoff worthy. For Seattle, this was a huge jump. They felt like they were on the upswing for a while, and the numbers finally show that. Their attack went up a bit to 2.8 points, but it was on defense that they showed real gains. They improved to an above-average 23.8 points. That puts them at their highest combined margin since 2019 at 2.1 points. In the rankings this week, there was a ton of movement. LA held on to the top spot, but next in line is New England, who surged up 2 spots, while Atlanta dropped to 3rd. Austin also had a surge, going up 3 spots to 4th, followed by Rooney, who went up 1 to 5th. NOLA, meanwhile, dropped 3 spots to 6th. In 7th are Seattle, who gained 2 spots, followed by Utah, who dropped 3. In 9th and 10th are Toronto and Old Glory, both up 1 spot, while 11th is San Diego, who are down 3 spots. And last by a country mile is Houston. So now we get on to the playoffs. A lot has changed since last week. In the West, Austin's loss put them out of the hunt, even though Utah also lost. LA is locked into the top seed, and Utah is locked into the 2nd seed. In the East, things are a little more undecided. Atlanta has their spot secured, and New England, because of Rooney's win, is officially out. But NOLA, despite their loss, is hanging on by a thread. Because they lost without even a bonus point, they will need a big win against Rooney this weekend to make it. They will need to win with a bonus point, but they will also need to deny Rooney any bonus points. Furthermore, they will need to win by at least 20 points, since point differential is the tiebreaker. It isn't an impossible feat, we've seen results like that before. However, it is at the tail end of the probability distribution. That means that the model gives them just a 1% chance to make it. Still, they control their own destiny here. It will be interesting to see what they do with it. On to the matches, we have Houston visiting Seattle. Now, this match will probably have happened by the time you're listening to this. It's scheduled to kick off just hours after I'm recording this, but I'll still give my numbers for the sake of completeness. Seattle is expected to win this in an 11-point blowout, 32-21. That gives them a 79% chance to win. Basically, the model has no faith in the Sabercats, and frankly, I agree. Still, 11 is a big line, so I might pick Houston to cover. Might. Next up, we have the most dramatic showdown of the season. NOLA will visit Rooney with all the marbles on the line. This is a tie in the model, 21-21, but Rooney is given a small edge in the probability with a 52% chance to win. As I said, NOLA is going to have to win big here, so it will be an exciting match to watch. We then have Austin heading to Old Glory. Austin is expect to take this by 4, 28-22, which is a 66% chance to win, but we'll see if that's actually how this plays out. Austin, having just missed out on the playoffs, could easily let themselves go a bit, while Old Glory really will want to keep up their newfound momentum. Next up is a match that we all expected to be important, but actually isn't. LA will visit Utah for a West Conference Finals preview. LA is expected to win by 7, 26-19, a 70% chance to win, but who knows what will actually happen. Both teams will want to rest players, and because it doesn't really count, they'll probably want to give experience to younger players as well. They also won't want to expose whatever tactics they have so that they can keep them for the finals. I expect this to be a thoroughly weird match. And at last, we have the final match of the 2021 MLR regular season, New England at Atlanta. Surprisingly, New England is expected to win this one by 2, 21-19. That's a 54% chance to win. This would be an upset in most people's minds, but I actually think it makes sense. At this point, Atlanta are all but locked into the top spot in the East, so they will want to conserve some energy here. They really don't have anything to play for. Meanwhile, New England is riding high. That could make the conditions right for a Free Jacks upset. Well, that's all for me this week. If you want to pick against my numbers, or if you just want to check out the graphs, you can head over to tacklethenumbers.gloriousrugby.com. If you have questions or comments for the show, you can reach me at tacklethenumbers@gloriousrugby.com. Till next time, folks.